Chronological fallacies and flawed arguments. Logical fallacy is a flaw in an argument. Now, there are formal and informal logical fallacies, and I can get into that. They're often subtle, and we're going to learn to recognize these. They'll strengthen your own arguments and help you critique others' arguments, particularly when you do refutations. Now, one thing you don't want to do in writing a paper is just label a logical fallacy a logical fallacy. You want to actually point out how it doesn't work, more than just label it, all right? Let's go through a bunch of these, though. Now, I'm not going to so much go over the formal versus informal for you. That's something you'll study in college if you study formal logic. I will say, though, that formal logical fallacies are always wrong. Informal logical fallacies are just likely to be wrong, and the ones I'm teaching today are mostly informal logical fallacies. Hasty generalization is a generalization based on insufficient evidence or unrepresented evidence. I'll give you an example. Deaths from drug overdoses in Metropolis have doubled in the last 3 years. Therefore, more Americans than ever are dying from drug abuse. Why is this a hasty generalization? Well, one city cannot be generalized to the entirety of the United States. There might be particular conditions in Metropolis that gives it, more unfavorable drug overdoses than everywhere else. A non sequitur. A conclusion that does not follow logically from the preceding statements or is based on irrelevant data. Mary loves children, so she will make an excellent school teacher. It's not necessarily true that she'll make an excellent school teacher, because loving children won't be the only thing that matters. Also, maybe you don't like children and you're a good school teacher. It'd be weird, but it's possible. False analogy. The assumption that because two things are alike in some respects, they are alike in all others. If we put humans on the moon, we'll be able to find a cure for a common cold. All right, this is a false analogy because we have a different kind of problem with putting people on the moon versus the common cold. The common cold is actually a complex of viruses, including non-COVID-19 COVID viruses, ironically. And they're too complicated and mutate for us to find a cure for them. We can maybe have vaccines for them, but we can't cure them all. Either or fallacy. The suggestion of there only being two alternatives when there are in fact more. You can either learn to program a computer or you won't be able to get a decent job after college. Well, there are other decent jobs than programming on a computer, right? So this is just a false choice. You may also hear this called the false choice fallacy. False cause, post hoc, coincidence versus causality. The assumption that because one event happens after another or follows another, that the first is the cause of the other. Since Governor Smith took office, unemployment for minorities in the state has decreased by 7%. Governor Smith should be applauded for reducing unemployment for minorities. Notice that there's no reason to believe that Governor Smith is actually the cause of why minority unemployment has declined. It might be other reasons. That doesn't prove it, doesn't give the causal mechanism. They just happened at the same time. That's what we call a post hoc fallacy. Circular reasoning or begging the question. An argument in which the writer, instead of applying evidence, simply restates the point in another way, trying to substitute restating the point for the argument. Students should not be allowed to park in reserved lots for faculty because those lots are reserved for faculty only. Notice that one just restates the other. Like there's no actual argument given. We call this circular reasoning. Also, when you answer like, what is love? Love is love. That's circular reasoning. Love is affection. That's circular reasoning. All right, don't do it. And if you do it on a paper, I'm going to call you out on it. Bandwagon appeal, also known in Latin as ad populum. You'll notice that we talk about logic. We like to give things Latin names because we're pretentious like that. A claim that an idea should be accepted because a large number of people favor it or because they believe it is true. Everyone knows that smoking marijuana is physically addictive and psychologically harmful. Well, smoking marijuana may be physically addictive and psychologically harmful, but because everyone knows it isn't a reason to believe it. You'd have to actually prove it, and the fact that everyone thinks that is no reason to believe it at all. Argument to a person or ad hominem attack. An attack on the person proposing the argument rather than dealing with the argument itself. Senator Jones was a conscientious objector during the Vietnam War, so his proposal to limit military spending has no merit. Well, it's actually not relevant, right? We're just attacking his prior position. Red herring, an argument that focuses on a relevant issue to distract attention from the real issue. And you guys, I promise you do this all the time with your parents. Reporters are out to get the president, so there's no wonder we're hearing rumors about these scandals. Well, that's a red herring, right? It doesn't matter if the reporters are out to get the president. If there are rumors about scandals, there are rumors about scandals. Let me give you another example. Your mom asks you, how are you doing in your math class? And you go, I got an A in my English class. That's a red herring. You're just trying to distract from the issue. Force and fear are the argumentum ad baculum. I used to carry a sticker on my classroom, and I called that stick the argumentum ad baculum. I don't do it anymore. The argumentum ad baculum fallacy is committed whenever the proponent of an argument attempts to persuade the audience for accepting conclusion by predicting or causing unpleasant consequences if they are not accepted. You ought to vote for Senator Gulch, because if you don't, I'll burn your house down. We know what you do. We know how to take care of you. That is a logical fallacy. It's an appeal to force and fear. Appeal to celebrity or false authority. Ad verecundiam. The ad verecundiam fallacies consist of an appeal to an irrelevant authority. That is an authority that is not an authority of the field in question. It's also, if you notice, one of our unfair emotional appeals. Oprah says she won't eat beef, therefore you shouldn't eat beef. Why does it matter that Oprah doesn't eat beef? Argumentum ad misericordiam. My Latin is pretty bad. Ad misericordiam, or the appeal to pity, is an appeal to accept the truth out of pity for the arguer or some third party. Either the arguer or someone else is the object of pity, or they will become one if the conclusion is not accepted. If I don't get at least a B in this course, my GPA will drop below 2.0. If that happens, I'll lose my scholarship and I'll have to quit school. I ought to get a B in this course. That's an appeal to pity. Don't do it. It makes me mad. Non-disproof. All right. Someone encounters an argument that some claim should be accepted because it has never been disproved. This is a mood. The move from disproved to proved is invalid. No one has ever shown that it is impossible for the stars to rule our lives. Therefore, astrology is true. No, you can't conclude anything no evidence is no evidence. That's a non-disproof. Undistributed middle. This one's a little bit complicated. An error in deductive reasoning which parts of the premises may or may not overlap. The middle term is undistributed, and all instances of the conclusion are also instances of the premise. Valid arguments. All mammals have hair. All whales are mammals. All whales have hair. The middle term is distributed. Whales fits into the category of mammals and having hair. Undistributed middle. All whales have hair. All humans have hair. All whales are human. The middle term, human, does not fit into both categories, whales and hair. So these are the fallacies we covered today. Hasty generalization, non sequitur, false analogy, either or fallacy, false cause, circular reasoning, bandwagon appeal, argument ad hominem, red herring, force and fear, appeal to celebrity, pity, non-disproof, and undistributed middle. And guys, there's at least 100 other logical fallacies. I'm going to give you a list below in Canvas to help you with this. These are just some of the most common ones that I often see in papers. And this is where I got my sources on this. And remember, I want to thank Sean Mull for helping providing much of this condensed research. Because Sean Mull did this, I believe. And you need to really think about logical fallacies in your papers and in other people's papers. Now, again, you're not just going to point them out when you do a rhetorical analysis. You're going to point out where these cause the logic to mess up, or if they hurt the rhetoric of the paper. All right. That's it, and we're done for today.